Right, we are back with some quick math. We are doing some grade 12 content. This is cubic functions. The specific question that we're dealing with now is a technical math question. Comes out of November 2023 exam paper, right? But this is pure math content as well. So this video is for pure math and technical math learners, right? And whenever you draw any function, so this one is specifically a cubic function, but besides the cubic function, any function, you always need certain things. You need your y-intercept, right? You need your x-intercept, and well, intercepts, because there's going to be more than one depending on what function you have, and you will need your turning points, right? So you need these three pieces. Once you have these three pieces, then you can draw your function. Okay, for a cubic function, we know that there's going to be multiple turning points, maybe one, maybe two. Okay, but these are the things that you need when you want to draw your cubic function, or any function, in fact. Okay, so let's get into this. Right, so the first, they break this down nicely for us, and they say we must find our y-intercept. Okay, so y-intercept is when you make x 0. Okay, so for all functions, y-intercept is when x is 0. So we'll go to g of x, because that's the name of our function, and we'll put 0 in there, and then we'll say 0 cubed minus 0 squared plus 0 minus 12, right? So I'm not doing the whole substitution, because we can see that all of these, so all of those, they have x's there, and if it's a 0 in x's place, they're basically going to disappear. Okay, so that's the substitution that I did, and I end up with a negative 12. Okay, so that's fine. You can say g of x equals negative 12. That will get you the mark. I like coordinates, so I'm going to say that my x is 0 and my y is minus 12. Okay, if you don't put it in coordinate form, that's still fine. You'll still get all of the marks. Okay, the next part of the question is here. They say we must find g of minus 2. We should be comfortable with function notation. Okay, so that means we're going to find g. The graph's name is g, and the minus 2 is the value that we're going to substitute for x. Okay, great. So we are going to go and we're going to say minus, and our x value over here is the minus 2. We're going to put that in place here. That needs to be cubed. Then you're going to add, you have your 5, you have your x, so your x value for this one is again 2, minus 2 rather. That's going to get squared, plus your 8. Your 8 is going to multiply with your 2, and negative 2, let me go fix that. And you're adding, or you're subtracting 12 at the end. Okay, and you got to space a little bit there. Okay, so let's do the, so if you want to go put all of this into your calculator, that's perfectly fine, right? Maybe that's what we should go do quickly. Okay, I'm going to do one more step of simplification, and then I'll go to my calculator. So this is going to be minus 2 cubed is going to be a minus 8, but the minus in front of it, so it's going to be positive 8. 2 minus 2 squared is going to give me positive 4, plus 5 is going to give me 20. And then 8 times minus 2 is going to be minus 16, and minus 12. Right, so again, we could have gone to put this into our calculators much earlier, right? But let's go do that quickly. That's going to be 28 minus 16 minus 12, and you end up with 0. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, so you should remember from your remainder theorem that once you substitute a value into your function, the number that you end up with is your remainder. Okay, and if your remainder is 0, so this over here tells me my remainder is 0. Remainder equals 0. So if your remainder is 0, what you know is you found a factor. Okay, so what that means is when our cubic, right, so our cubic is minus x cubed. I'm gonna write that down first. Minus, let's go back there, minus x cubed plus 5x squared plus 8x minus 12. When you factorize this, right, one of your brackets you know already. The one you know is because this is a factor. So what is going to be your factor? It's going to be x. And since there's a minus 2 in the middle, there will be a plus 2 over there. Okay, why am I saying that? So the reason for that is this. You'll take this factor, so the x plus 2, you would generally equate it to 0. This will go over to that side. So x equals minus 2, this is the value that produces 0 as a factor. That's what we remember. 0 as a remainder, rather. This we should remember from your remainder theorem, right? But let's get rid of that. Once you have your first bracket, so we have our first bracket now. So nice enough, the question helped us get to the first bracket. If the question doesn't do that, right, there is a way to find that first bracket using our calculators. And I think I'll make a separate video on how to use the calculator to find that first bracket. But once you have your first bracket, you need to find your second bracket. And your second bracket is generally going to be a quadratic. So it's going to be x squared and then an x and then a constant. How you find that is with synthetic division. There is multiple ways. We're going to go for synthetic division because generally it is the easier way. So we are going to put this minus 2 that we found earlier, that value is going to be the one in front over here. Okay, so you take that bracket equated to 0, solve for x. That's the value that goes in there. Okay, now what goes under is going to be the coefficients, the numbers in front of x. So the first coefficient is a minus 1, that is this thing here. The next coefficient is your positive 5, that is this one. Your next coefficient is your 8, that is this one. And then your last coefficient, and I'm going to say coefficient instead of constant because we also know that x to the power of 0 exists over there. We don't need it right now. We'll need it at some point, right? But the last coefficient is going to be our minus 12. Right, now we're going to go ahead and do our synthetic division. Now, if we remember, we must end up with a 0 over here. If we don't end up with a 0, then we made a mistake somewhere, or the value we have in front here is not a factor, but we already know that it should be. Okay, so let's go through synthetic division. The first one, you bring this down. Nothing, you didn't do anything, you just brought it down, that's all. Next thing you're going to do is this one is going to multiply with that one, so we're multiplying now. Minus 2 times minus 1 is going to give you a positive 2. And then you add down like this, right? So here this one we multiplied, here we're going to add, okay? So it's going to be 5 plus 2, that's going to give you a 7. Then you do the whole process again. Now you start with the minus 2, and you're going to multiply. Oh, let's get that back. You're going to start with the minus 2, and you're going to multiply. Minus 2 times 7 minus 14. Then you're going to add. So now you're adding down. So minus 8 plus minus 14 is going to give you a negative 6. And then we do the process again. So it's going to be multiply, minus plus. So 2 times 6 is going to be plus 12. Add those, you get 0, which we said we're supposed to get. Now these values you found over here, these are your coefficients of your quadratic, right? So if you go back up, the second bracket, how do you know the values in the second bracket? Is because of your synthetic division. So you're going to put a minus 1 over there, and that's going to be your x squared coefficient. Your 7 is going to be your x coefficient, right? And then the minus 6 is going to be, let's say, our constant. Okay, so there you've got your second bracket. All right. So I didn't even read the question yet. This one, we're supposed to find the x-intercepts, okay? So in order to find x-intercepts, obviously you make your y value 0. So g of x must equal to 0 in order to find your x-intercept, meaning this whole thing must equate to 0, okay? So we're going to say 0 is equal to, our first bracket we know was x plus 2. Our second bracket, we use synthetic division in order to come up with the second bracket, plus 7 x minus 6. All right, so now we need to solve for x here, okay? So the first one we can see nicely, thus we can equate to 0x plus 2 equals 0. Okay, this is the 2. We're going to subtract 2 on both sides. So your first value is x equals minus 2. Then you must take this one and equate this to 0. So we'll say minus x squared plus 7x minus 6 equals to 0. And now you must solve for x. So you have a quadratic that needs to be solved for x. You have options. We can try and factorize this, or you can go to your quadratic formula, right? So x equals minus b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. You can go do that whole thing. I think this is going to be easy to factorize, so I'm going to factorize. I don't like this negative here in front, so I'm going to divide everything with minus 1 on both sides. I can't do it because I have an equation. I can do it on both sides, okay? So I'm minusing, dividing with minus 1, so this is going to generate a positive x squared. This will be a negative 7x, and this will be a plus 6. And this is still a 0 on that side. This is going to be an easy trinomial to solve. X and x. The factors of 6, is 1 and 6, 2 and 3. What can get me a 7? Those ones, right? So I'm going to go with my 1 and my 6 in my bracket. I have a plus here, so my signs will have to be the same. So it's either plus plus or minus minus. I have a negative 7, so I need minus 1, minus 6 to get me that value. Then again, these two generate their values minus 1. So I add 1 on both sides. So x is equal to positive 1. This one generates solutions. This goes over. So x is equal to positive 6. All right. So you have this one, and this one as your x-intercepts. Previously, we found our y-intercept. Let's just go back to that quickly. So here we have our y-intercept. Okay. We're going to stop the video here because it's getting a bit long. All right. But remember, in order to draw a function, you need x-intercepts, y-intercepts, and turning points. X-intercept, make y 0, solve for x, right? So we did that. Y-intercept, make x 0, solve for y. And then turning points, we'll get into the next video.